How many times have you heard experiences from individuals and families who are struggling with the challenges of aging, caregiving, the unknowns of health, loneliness, financial worry, and just general overwhelm? I spent 10 years working in the aging sector, hearing these same stories of struggle over and over again. And at the root of it all, no one is teaching us how to plan for aging from a holistic perspective. So welcome to the Ageucation Podcast. This is where you will get the aging education you didn't know you needed. My name is Jess Davis. If you are in your 60s or 70s, or you have parents in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, you are in the right place, my friend. We are all aging. We all want to maintain our autonomy and independence as we age. So let's intentionally prepare our families for the needs of our eldest years. Welcome back to the Ageucation Podcast. Today's episode revolves around reflection. I am reflecting on a bit of an accomplishment from the past year, and today's story is about life reflection, and all of this reflection is based on my Leaving Legacy journal. So let me first tell you about the journal I created, which is not meant to be an ad, but I suppose it is a shameless plug for it. But after I tell you about it, we'll get into the story. So about 5 years ago, probably, I started looking at life story journals to purchase for my own grandparents. Something that they could document their memories and stories in for myself and my brother and other family members to have as a keepsake of them after they died. And I recognized what a loss it would be to lose a grandparent. And although this is the circle of life, it's the stories and lived experiences and meaningful memories that I knew I would miss most about them. Maybe I'm at 30-something, I'm an old soul in thinking that, but I find so much comfort and importance in knowing about who came before me in my family. What did the generations before me experience? What did they learn throughout life that are lessons then for me? And I believe it is my responsibility, or rather our responsibility as the younger generation, to recognize that if we listen and learn from those who have come and gone before us, we have a firmer and stronger foundation to set off on our own path and our own mission. Every generation should be leaving something to lift up the next. And every new generation should remain in tune to what the previous generations accomplished so that we aren't spinning in circles and repeating history. But anyways, in my search for a life story journal for my own grandparents, I couldn't find anything that checked all the boxes for me. The journals were either too small for arthritic hands to hold on to, the text was too small for visual impairments. The cover of the books were often like too flashy or had weird graphics, and the layout or the prompts in the book didn't make sense. Maybe I was being picky, but I kept thinking I could make a better journal than this. So in late 2023, I created my own life story journal, and I self-published it in time for people to be able to order it as a Christmas gift that year. And then from that, I received feedback on that first version of the journal, and I refined it and then relaunched it last fall 2024. And I attended a number of local markets as a vendor and sold my journal and was able to talk to people in person about the journal and about my age planning business, which was really cool. So, shameless plug, my life story journal is called Leaving Legacy. It has over 150 journaling prompts that are broken into 15 categories across the lifespan. It goes from infancy and childhood into teens and relationships, parenting and grandparenting. And then there are some extra ones like fun facts and favorites. But the journal itself is 8.5 by 11 inches. So it's a good size to hold on to and leaves lots of room inside for writing. The entire journal is minimum 18-point font to help those with visual impairment. And then on the cover of the journal, there's a little blank box so that you can write the name of the person who filled it out right on the cover. If you have multiple grandparents or parents filling out the journals, then you can tell as soon as you pick it up who wrote it in this journal. What else? Oh, there's 2 color options. So it's available in a sage green or like a clay orange. Both are the same inside. They're just different color options. So you can go to nestage.ca/leavinglegacy to have a look and to order these journals. You can have them mailed to you, or I can send them directly to your loved one. The journals are $30 each, and that includes your shipping. But let's get to today's story now, because I love this one. Stories like this are exactly what I hoped for when I created this journal. So, an adult daughter purchased a Leaving Legacy journal for her mother, whom was 90, I think she told me. And she gifted her mother the journal, and her mother wanted nothing to do with it. She said it was too much work to write in the journal, and no one wants to hear her stories anyway. She has no interest to sit and write. It's a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. But then a few months go by, and the daughter comes to find out that her mother has in fact found a completely new surge of life from this journal. And she's actually started writing her own book on the computer because there wasn't enough room to write in the journal. And the prompts within my Leaving Legacy journal were providing her an outline to type out her own book on the computer. And my heart just exploded when she told me this story for 2 main reasons that I'll tell you now, and then I'll give you some meaningful explanation to each. So, number 1, the mother had found an activity of life reflection and she was healing. And number 2, someday her family would pick up and read her memories that she has been documenting, and they're going to gain comfort and knowledge and wisdom and healing from her writing. So let's dive into what I mean a little bit more about these. So the number 1, this 90-year-old woman was getting a big, huge dose of life reflection in her voluntarily writing and creating her own book from my journal prompts, which on a deeper level means she was doing some kind of healing. I have had many people tell me that completing this type of life story journal is a very healing experience for them, because you're allowing yourself to recall old memories and return to a previous stage of life and state of thinking, of which you are now able to reflect on as someone with 60, 70, 80, 90 years of life that you've lived. And that is so powerful. That is healing for the soul if you allow it to be. Because the flip or the opposing way to think about this, which I think is really heartbreaking, but people would say this to me at every market I went to. They would say, people don't want to read about the memories that I have, or my life stories aren't the kind that you share. And those are the responses of someone who has not processed their traumas and does not understand the incredible value of their lived experience and personal lessons that they are withholding from the next generation. Because like I said in the beginning, every generation should be leaving something to lift up the next. to start the next generation from a higher foundation than they had to start from. And that means the stories and experiences of our eldest generations, for better or for worse, are lessons that the young need to hear. Because healing happens between generations. Generational healing happens when an older generation allows themselves to acknowledge and process their wounds and then teach a younger generation what they learned in order to create healthier lives for current and future generations. So when someone believes my life is not worth reflecting on and I have nothing to teach, that is heartbreaking and that is detrimental to not only that individual's health and healing, but it is also detrimental to the success of their future generations. So let's move to number 2 of why it made me so happy to hear about this woman writing her own life storybook. Someday, her family will read her memories, and she has been documenting them, and they will then have the opportunity to gain comfort, knowledge, wisdom, and their own healing from her writing. When I talk to a family who has purchased my journal, and I've heard people use them a few different ways. So some people will give the journal to their loved one and ask them to complete the journal with the intent that someday in the future, when their loved one has died, they will have this book of memories to read and feel comforted by through their grieving process of losing that person. They will always have their stories to return to when they need a dose of comfort and healing and a sense of closeness with their loved one. And then other people use the prompts within the journal to create conversation and gain new stories and perspectives from their loved one in real time that otherwise they would have never heard. And from this, family members are not only able to acquire knowledge and wisdom, but the older adult is given purpose and value from recalling memories and sharing them in conversation. And for families with an older adult who is dealing with mobility or vision challenges, cognitive decline, a general lack of energy, or maybe even they're in palliative care, the simplicity yet depth of conversation from these life reflection prompts can be exactly what a family needs to meaningfully engage with one another in those times. So, all to say, I just feel so fulfilled to hear of this family benefiting from my Leaving Legacy journal and this woman creating her own book off of my prompts because I didn't give her enough space. So it's exactly how I hope legacy gets stirred up for an older adult and their family. If you want to check out Leaving Legacy and order 1 or 2 for your family, you can go to my website, nestage.ca/leavinglegacy, and you can find all the details there. I also have a little video of me flipping through the book that you can see. Or you can send me a message and I'll get them mailed out to you right away. But thank you for joining me on this episode of the Ageucation Podcast, and I will catch you on the next one. Are you listening to this podcast and feeling like you want more? Like you want to take the next step in learning about age planning and how that could benefit your family? Well, I have the perfect little introduction into my 3 main frameworks that I use to coach families through being proactive and intentional about their aging journey. So come check them out. The Ageucation Mini-Course. The course is made up of 6 videos that are packed with valuable information and framework explanations to give you a strong visual and create a foundation for understanding how to start being proactive and intentional about planning for aging in your family. Visit my website, nestage.ca/mini-course to learn more and dive in. That's nestage.ca/mini-course. You can find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ageucation Podcast. I have 3 reminders before you go. Number 1, go check out the show notes for any resources or links that I mentioned in this episode that may have piqued your interest. Number 2, please share this episode with a friend whom you think it would bless, because in order for more families to benefit from my age planning resources, I need listeners like you to spread the word. And number 3, I would love to hear from you. Email me with your thoughts on this episode or suggest a topic you'd like to hear on a future episode. Find my email in the show notes. And remember, we're all aging. Aging is the same as living, and it is a privilege to live and to age.